Hello and welcome once again to Frankie's Record Shop. I got some records for you today to talk about. Today we're going to start with a 1986 record by an Atlanta-based R&B funk group. And they are called Cash Flow. They were produced by Cameo's Larry Blackman, and they pretty much sound like it and pretty much look like it too. And so this has got a top UK top 20 hit on it called Mine All Mine. It's pretty cool. My favorite song of it is Party Freak, which kind of belongs in the 1980s, freak scene songs like Freak Show on the Dance Floor by the Bar-Kays and Super Freak by Rick James. It's part of the freaky freak songs. Get your freaky deaky on. But yeah, so that's Cash Flow. Pretty cool. All right, and after that, we are going to go to a 1974 record by England's very own pub rock royalty, Dux Deluxe. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 1974 debut. These guys are pub rock royalty. What is pub rock? Pub rock is like 1950s rock and roll, revved up hard with a slight punk sneer, proto-punk sneer, because this stuff was happening in the pubs in England before punk rock. And, it sounds good when you're drinking ale and snorting cocaine and trying to pick up chicks and, doing that rock and roll thing. Or dudes, whichever, swings your fancy. And this record is such an excellent representation of the genre, if not the definitive version of events. It's got Coast to Coast on it. It's got just amazing songs. You got to check this one. 1974, Dux Deluxe. And onward we move to John Prine. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the great songwriter John Prine. What kind of songwriter is John Prine? Well, John Prine is the kind of songwriter that you could say is somewhere in between Chris Christopherson and Bob Dylan. And both of those guys love this guy. As a matter of fact, every great songwriter of the 70s loved this guy. Half the Eagles show up on this record. J.D. Souther makes an appearance. He's got Steve Goodman on here. They all love him. And this has some of my favorite John Prine songs on it, Saddle in the Rain being one of them. But it is just, I can't describe it. I think you just need to go hear John Prine. And this record should be in your collection, as it is in mine. I love it. All right, we move on to a 1970 record by a legendary singer, and it's very uncharacteristic of this person's catalog. And yes, it is Chubby Checker with Checkered, which is his total blowout psychedelic soul record. Half of it sounds somewhere in between Don Covey and Vanilla Fudge. It rules. And there's a song on here called Stoned in the Bathroom, a 7.5-minute opus everybody talks about after they're done hearing this record. But there's so many other great songs on here, like My Mind, and it just, you gotta hear it. It is one of those records that if you hated the twist or anything Chubby Checker ever did, this thing is worth your time. And lastly today on this episode is Daryl Hall's Sacred Songs. This is a record he recorded in 1977 with King Crimson's Robert Fripp. And they recorded it, and then all the management got in his ears and were like, hey, that's not commercial. It's going to derail everybody's interest in Hall & Oates. You need to put that on the back burner. So it was on the back burner for 3 years. They released it in 1980. It is a phenomenally awesome, art pop record. If that's a good way to describe it, I don't know. But it is fantastic. It just goes to show you that Daryl Hall was really the true artist in Hall & Oates. He was the man. And I think he believes that if this record came out in 77 like he wanted it to, his career trajectory would have been very different, which maybe is sad for some of the people who wanted to hear Out of Touch and all those great 80s hits they did. But for the man and for his talent and for what he wanted to do, I think he wanted to go other places. So you got to give it up to this man and this record, Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall. And that's all for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.